I knew the place would be dark when I got in. It was always like that when I worked late. But that night, something about the silence felt heavier. No music. No lights dimmed low with those orange bulbs Maya loved. Just a hollow echo as I stepped inside. My name's Julian Cross. I'm 42. I live in downtown Chicago in a penthouse loft I designed myself. The kind of place people write articles about: exposed beams, concrete walls, imported wood flooring, the whole polished raw aesthetic. But that night it felt like a shell. A showroom where someone forgot to bring the life. "Soren," I said, spotting a silhouette near the kitchen island. He turned. His face was pale and drawn tight like he hadn't blinked in hours. I dropped my keys in the bowl and frowned. "Where's Maya?" He opened his mouth but didn't speak. Just handed me a folded piece of paper. I didn't read it right away. I looked around. The foyer was spotless. No purse on the hook, no sandals by the bench. The silence started roaring in my ears. Then I unfolded the letter. It was Maya's handwriting, neat and controlled. "Julian, I'm sorry. I've left with Theo. Please don't come looking for us. I've fallen in love with Kellen." My knees nearly buckled. Kellen? Kellen? The same kid I brought into my company, mentored, vouched for? The one who sat across from me at 1,000 meetings like a student waiting for approval? I felt the heat rising behind my eyes. Betrayal doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers, "You're a fool." "She's gone." My voice cracked a little. "I didn't mean it to." Soren nodded. "Took her suitcase. Theo's backpack." She didn't say anything to me until she was halfway out the door. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. "Unbelievable. She left a letter. Like this is a movie." "She said it was the only way you'd let her go," Soren said softly. I looked at him then, really looked at him. 27. Same dark eyes as his sister, but softer. He always had this reverent energy around me. Like he saw me as someone to learn from. Someone worth becoming. And now he was here, watching my whole world crumble. "Why are you still here?" I asked. I meant it sharper than I intended. He flinched but didn't look away. "Because you shouldn't be alone right now." I don't know what possessed me. The rage. The humiliation. The aching silence of that letter. Maybe just the comfort of someone not walking away. We talked for hours. Drank too much. The city outside blurred into a mess of red and white lights through the windows. At some point he touched my arm. And I didn't stop him. The line blurred. Then it disappeared altogether. And that night I crossed it. When I woke the next morning, Soren was still beside me. I didn't feel regret. Just an unsettling calm. Like a chessboard right after the first devastating move. You don't know the outcome yet. But something irreversible has started. 3 weeks later, it was like nothing had happened. At least on the outside. I showed up at meetings in my tailored navy suits, shook hands with department heads, gave polished presentations to city officials like I hadn't been gutted in my own home. Maya was gone. Theo was gone. Kellen? A ghost. But I played my part. And Soren? He was still here. Not just still here, he had become a fixture. People thought he was my new assistant, my new strategist, a young upstart clinging to my orbit. But he wasn't clinging. He was anchoring. The nights blurred together. Expensive takeout, whiskey in cut crystal glasses, late-night talks that drifted into something more physical when the words stopped making sense. He never brought up that night. I never asked if he regretted it. But he didn't leave. Instead, he started helping. "You really want to know how she thinks?" he asked one night, curled up on the couch with his laptop resting on his knees. "Start with her calendar. Maya plans her feelings." I'm not even kidding. I leaned over. He had accessed her shared calendars, old ones from when she was still linked to my design firm's family accounts. I never even thought to look. But there it was. Dates, flight bookings, dinner reservations. One had San Fran meetup, K, tagged next to it. "She was seeing him months ago," I muttered. Soren nodded. "Probably longer. I bet he fed her that whole self-righteous savior complex thing. You know how she falls for that." He wasn't wrong. Kellen had always played up the whole ethical tech disruptor bit. Big ideas. Flannel shirts. lofty TED Talk quotes about AI for the underserved. He built an image that made him seem noble, like ambition could be forgiven if it wore sandals. I started digging. There were bank statements, text backups from our shared devices, security camera footage from the building, timestamps that showed Maya leaving on the nights I was out of town. Always the same, around 8 p.m., back by midnight. Clean, hidden. The betrayal wasn't even messy. It was surgical. "You want revenge?" Soren asked me once, not accusing, just curious. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at the screen. Kellen and Maya walking through an airport together. Her hand on his back like she used to calm me down during networking events. "I want control," I said. That's when Maya reached out. A text, casual at first. Then a voicemail. Her voice shaky. "Julian, I made a mistake. Kellen, it's not what I thought. Can we meet? Please." I waited a full day before I called back. "Sure," I said, calm as ever. "Let's talk." Soren sat across the room, legs tucked under him, watching me with a quiet kind of fire in his eyes. Like he already saw where this was going. Like he was already with me in it. The trap was starting to take shape. Maya arrived on a Thursday evening, wearing the kind of coat people choose when they want to be taken seriously but feel like falling apart. She looked thinner. Not sick, just drained. Like something had bled her slowly over the past few weeks. I opened the door without a word. She stepped inside like it was still her home, but hesitated a little at the threshold. Her eyes scanned the space like she half expected to see toys or familiar chaos, but everything was curated now. Minimal. Cold. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she said quietly. I gestured toward the couch but didn't sit. "What happened?" She pulled off her gloves slowly. "Kellen changed. Or maybe I just stopped pretending he hadn't. He gets paranoid. Accuses me of tracking his devices. He smashed my phone last week. Thought I was talking to you." I raised an eyebrow. "Were you?" "I tried," she admitted. "A few times. Then I stopped. He watches everything." There was a pause. The room swallowed the silence. "I know I hurt you," she said, her voice catching. "But I wouldn't be here if I didn't mean it. I don't want him near Theo. I need help." I finally sat. She looked at me like I might shatter or scream, but I didn't. I just watched her. Cool. Collected. "You want to stay here?" I said, not a question. She nodded. "Just until I figure out what to do." I leaned back and crossed one ankle over my knee. "Guest suite's still made up? You know where it is?" Her eyes widened slightly. She had expected more questions, maybe some gloating, some righteousness. But I gave her nothing. "Julian," she said slowly, "are you really okay with this?" "I'm not interested in fighting," I said simply. "You're scared. Theo's innocent. That's what matters right now." She studied me for a long second before quietly standing up and heading down the hallway, suitcase wheels barely whispering across the floor. Later that night, I poured myself a drink and sat in the shadowed corner of the loft, just watching the house breathe again. The air felt tight. Waited. Soren came down the stairs quietly. He wore one of my shirts. He didn't say anything, just crossed the room and sat on the armrest beside me. "She doesn't know I'm here," he said softly. "She will," I replied. He nodded, resting a hand gently on my shoulder. "What do you want me to do?" "Just be you," I said. "For now." We listened to the faint sound of Maya moving around in the guest suite. Opening drawers. Closing doors. "She thinks you're her safety net," Soren said. "She'll find out soon enough," I replied. "This isn't about shelter. It's about leverage." I looked at him. "You still in?" He didn't hesitate. "All the way." In that moment, I knew something Maya didn't. She thought she was playing catch-up in a broken relationship. But she wasn't in a relationship anymore. She was in a game. And we were already 3 moves ahead. Maya came into the kitchen early the next morning, barefoot, hair tied back like she used to when she worked late on grant proposals. She looked almost like herself. But not quite. She stopped short when she saw Soren at the counter, calmly scrambling eggs. "Soren," she said, surprised. He turned like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Morning. Coffee?" She blinked. "What are you doing here?" He glanced over at me. I was nursing a glass of black coffee, leaning against the island. "I've been staying here," he said. Maya turned toward me. "Since when?" "Since the night you left," I said evenly. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "You never told me. You never asked." She looked back at Soren. "So what, you're just living here now?" Soren shrugged, spooning eggs onto a plate. "We're involved." She flinched like she'd been slapped. "No," she said softly. "No, you're not." I set down my coffee cup. "We are." "That's not possible," she snapped, voice rising. You're doing this to hurt me. This is some kind of punishment, some sick power play. You think too highly of yourself, I said, voice calm. Not everything revolves around your guilt. She stared at both of us like she didn't recognize the people in front of her. I trusted you, she said to Soren. I told you everything. I leaned on you. And you walked out without a word, he said, his voice sharper than usual. I watched Julian fall apart. I stayed. You didn't. I saw it then, the way the weight of that truth hit her harder than my words ever could. It wasn't the affair that broke her in that moment. It was losing control of the narrative. That's when my phone buzzed. Right on time. I picked it up and answered. Go ahead. A voice crackled through the speaker. He's back. Checked into a place in Wicker Park under a fake name. Been asking questions. About her. Maya went pale. Thanks, I said, and hung up. She looked at me. Kellen? I nodded. Her hands trembled. He said he'd stay away. He promised. People like Kellen don't stay gone. They circle. They watch. And eventually, they pounce again. Maya sat down hard at the table, her voice thin. What do? I slid a folder across the table. You help me neutralize him. She looked at it without touching it. You already started planning this. I didn't answer. She opened it slowly. Inside were photos, transcripts, financial records, even emails I'd recovered from a shared cloud account she must have forgotten existed. Kellen's communications with potential investors. One of them was a fake shell company, mine. She flipped through the pages, each one wiping more color from her face. You've been planning this, she whispered. From the moment I left. From the moment he underestimated me. I corrected. You're using me, she said bitterly. And Theo. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I'm offering you protection. You're the one who walked into the lion's den. I'm the only one who can pull you out without losing a limb. And what about him? She shot Soren a glare. Is he part of this too? Soren met her gaze without blinking. Every step. For a long second, no one moved. Then she let out a shuddering breath. What's the plan? She asked, eyes hollow. I smiled just barely. Glad you asked. We sat in the study, me, Maya, and Soren, while the city lights blinked behind the windows like a slow, silent countdown. Maya looked exhausted. Her fingers drummed lightly on the folder I'd handed her earlier. Soren was stretched out on the chaise, flipping through Kellen's profile on a burner laptop. So this is it? Maya asked. You're going to lure him out with fake investors? Not fake, I said. Just curated. She gave me a look. I leaned forward. I created a shell company 2 weeks ago. It looks like a boutique impact investment fund. Website, logo, mission statement. It's backed by another dummy entity in Switzerland, in case Kellen tries to trace it. Which he will. Soren smirked. You always said paranoia was the mark of a sloppy coder. I nodded. And Kellen's gotten sloppier. He's chasing money now, not ideals. Maya swallowed. He won't trust me. He doesn't have to trust you, I said. He just has to want something bad enough to ignore the alarms. She looked at me. And what is it I'm offering? Redemption, I replied. A second chance. You'll tell him you regret leaving him. You'll say things fell apart after you left. That you missed the passion, the risk, the dream of changing the world together. She stared at me like I was laying out blueprints for a missile launch. You really think he'll believe that? Soren leaned in. You underestimate how badly Kellen wants to be needed. He's not looking for trust. He's looking for worship. Maya looked down at her lap. And if he gets violent? That's where I come in, Soren said. You won't be alone. I stood up and grabbed the whiteboard behind the desk. We're going to walk him straight into a controlled environment. You'll meet him at a showroom I'm renting under the shell company's name. Soren and I will be nearby, surveillance, backup, security. Everything will be recorded. And after? Maya asked. That depends on him, I said. If he tries to manipulate or intimidate you again, we'll catch it. And if he touches you, he won't, she cut in quickly. He's not. He's not always like that. Soren raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. I continued. Once we get him on tape, we'll present him with an offer. Sign over his IP. Walk away with a funded sabbatical, someplace isolated, out of reach. Or face charges for the damage he's done. To you. To investors. To everyone who believed in him. Maya looked away. And if he doesn't take either? Then we burn it all down, I said simply. But on our terms. Silence stretched between us. Then Maya whispered, Theo doesn't know any of this. He won't, I said. Not until you're ready. She nodded slowly, eyes glassy. I'm scared. Soren touched her shoulder. So was I. The night you left. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was no anger, just grief. Shared, stretched thin, reconfigured into something like resolve. I checked my watch. 3 days, I said. That's when we make contact. No one said it, but we all felt it. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was strategy. We rented a minimalist showroom in the West Loop, clean lines, matte black accents, big windows with privacy glass. It looked like a venture capital dreamscape. Cold. Stylish. Forgettable. Kellen arrived 15 minutes late, dressed like he always did for pitch meetings, distressed jeans and a blazer, like he wanted to seem disruptive but respectable. He paused at the door, scanned the space like he already suspected something was off. From the surveillance suite upstairs, I watched his face flicker between suspicion and pride. He still thought he was the smartest person in every room. Maya was already inside, sitting in a designer chair by the mock-up display wall, framed by a fake presentation slideshow behind her. She stood when she saw him. Hey! Kellen looked at her like he was deciding whether to hug her or interrogate her. Why here? He asked, eyes sweeping the room again. I wanted it to feel professional, Maya said carefully. And safe. For you or me? He asked, half laughing. Both, she replied. He studied her a moment longer, then sat down across from her. His posture was off. One foot bouncing. Fingertips tapping on the chair's arm. Jumpy. From upstairs, Soren leaned forward beside me, watching the feed. He's nervous. This is good. We had audio running through bone conduction mics embedded in the chairs. Kellen had no idea how surrounded he was. Tell me about this investor, Kellen said. Why the interest now? They just want to back my nonprofit, sight unseen. They're interested in ethical AI, Maya replied. They've been watching your talks. Reading your older posts. He smirked. Told you my Medium essays would pay off. Maya kept her face calm. They want a founder who's had controversy. A little fire. It helps the story. And you? He asked suddenly. Why now? Why come back? I made a mistake, she said. I left something good because I thought chaos was romantic. But you're not Julian. You don't build. You burn. He froze. You're saying I ruined us? He asked, voice flat. I'm saying you broke what I thought we had. And now I'm trying to rebuild. His jaw clenched. You said we were in this together. We're not anymore, she said. I tapped the signal button. On the screen, Maya stood, brushing past Kellen. Think about the offer, she said. They'll call you tomorrow. Kellen stood too. Wait, But she was already walking toward the exit. One of our security staff, dressed like a building manager, held the door open for her. As soon as it shut behind her, Kellen spun in a slow circle like the showroom might shift around him if he just looked hard enough. I watched as he pulled out his phone. Good. Hooked. Soren glanced at me. You want to intercept him now? I shook my head. Let him stew. Let him chase the scent. 10 minutes later, one of our team members approached Kellen. Mr. Cross is requesting a private debriefing. Our car's out front. Kellen hesitated, then followed. We watched him exit the showroom, slide into the black SUV, and disappear around the corner. Next stop? Soren asked. The incubator, I said. And with that, the trap shut completely. The startup incubator was a real facility, but not the kind that showed up on public tech maps or hosted glossy demo days. We called it that because the building had once belonged to an actual venture accelerator before it folded. Now it was privately leased, renovated, and retrofitted for something much more specific. Kellen woke up groggy in a conference room with opaque glass walls and noise-canceling panels. One long table, a pitcher of water, a black folder in front of him. No windows. Where, he muttered, rubbing his eyes. I stepped in before the panic could register fully. You're safe, I said calmly. He squinted at me, still trying to piece it all together. Julian? What the hell is this? An intervention, I replied. Of sorts. His eyes darted to the door, but there were no guards in sight. That was by design. He needed to feel cornered by reason, not brute force. You drugged me. You drank the water, I corrected. Voluntarily. It was dosed to keep you calm, not unconscious. You just needed a little reset before we talked. He blinked. Is this some kind of joke? I sat down across from him, hands folded. There's a folder in front of you. I suggest you open it. Kellen flipped it open. The top page was a summary of his online activity, cherry-picked from data he thought had been deleted. Tweets, DMs, emails to sketchy alt-VCS, screenshots of angry texts to Maya. One photo showed him grabbing her arm outside a cafe. His face drained of color. Let's get to it, I said. You have two options. He closed the folder. This is blackmail. No, I said. This is leverage. I slid over two documents. The first was a release of intellectual property rights, everything tied to his nonprofit AI work, signed over to the shell firm I controlled. The second was a contract assigning him to a year-long innovation retreat at a remote facility we owned in Montana. You expect me to disappear? He asked. I expect you to become useful, I said. You'll have access to equipment but no personal tech. No press. No emails. You'll produce under our name. You'll get a stipend and a cabin with a view. Think of it as enforced sabbatical. He leaned back. And if I refuse? Then we share everything in that folder. I said. Police. Investors. Maya's attorney. The public. You'll be radioactive by morning. You're insane, he muttered. No, I said, standing. I'm a builder. And you, Kellen? You're debris. Soren appeared in the doorway then, crisp in black slacks, holding a digital tablet. Time's up, he said. Kellen looked between us. You've both lost your minds. No, Soren said, placing the tablet on the table. We've simply outgrown your chaos. Kellen stared at the paperwork again. I waited. Then, finally, with a shaking hand, he picked up the pen. 15 minutes later, he was in a transport SUV, headed west. Soren stood beside me at the window as the car pulled away. He'll be monitored? He asked. Every second, I said. Good, Soren muttered. He doesn't get to make a comeback. I turned to him. Neither does Maya. Soren nodded slowly. She's next. I didn't answer. I didn't have to, because the Empire was almost ready. I told Maya to meet me at the firm downtown, neutral ground. Glass walls, silent assistants. Every inch of the place built to make people feel watched. She arrived right on time, dressed in quiet grays, her makeup barely covering the stress. There was no pretense this time. She sat across from me in the conference room and folded her hands like she was bracing for surgery. I haven't heard from Kellen, she said carefully. You won't, I replied. He's in a private facility. Working. Supervised. Quiet. Her eyes narrowed. You made him disappear. No, I said. I gave him structure. A chance to be useful. And Theo? We'll never see him again. That was part of the deal. She took a slow breath. So this is it. You win. It's not about winning, I said. It's about clarity. I pushed a manila envelope across the table. Inside were divorce papers, settlement terms, custody agreements. All prepared, all weighted in her favor. At first glance, Maya stared at it. You're not even going to talk about it? There's nothing to talk about, I said. You made your choices. I made mine. You used me, she snapped. You dangled safety so I'd help you take him down. And you used my trust to run off with someone I mentored. We're even. She laughed bitterly. This isn't even. You engineered everything. No, I said calmly. I just stopped reacting and started designing. She opened the folder and flipped through the pages. Her brow furrowed. This agreement, it's too clean. I didn't speak. Then she reached the final page. A small USB drive was clipped to the document. She looked up. What is this? I met her gaze. A contingency. A video file. One of the nights you spent with Kellen. You were mic'd through the building's security system. It's very emotional. Her face turned stone. You're bluffing. I'm not, I said. And I won't release it, as long as you sign. This is blackmail. No, I said. This is insurance. She stared at me for a long time, like she was trying to remember the man she married and couldn't find him. I should have expected this, she said. I just didn't think you'd drag me down to his level. I didn't, I said. You did that yourself. I just handed you the mirror. Maya looked down, picked up the pen and signed. Just like that, the last piece moved into place. She stood up, gathered her bag, and hesitated at the door. You're not going to say goodbye? To who? I asked. You? Or the version of you that used to live here? She didn't reply, just walked out, slow, quiet, the way a ghost might leave a house it once haunted. Soren stepped in a few seconds later, carrying 2 coffee cups. She signed. I nodded. He handed me one. She'll vanish now. Already arranged, I said. A new identity, new city, quiet payouts. She'll keep her silence. He smirked. Cold. Controlled. I corrected. We stood there, side by side, watching the security footage of Maya stepping into the elevator for the last time. As the doors closed, I took a long sip of coffee. That door was shut, locked, and I had the only key. 6 months later, I stood in the atrium of a brand new nonprofit headquarters. Glass and steel, minimalist and expensive. The name etched into the frosted glass doors was Foundation for Ethical Systems Design. A mouthful that sounded noble, clean, trustworthy. Most people didn't know the underlying architecture, the real brains behind the tech, had been stripped from Kellen's original frameworks. His dream repackaged under my vision. Marketed by Soren. Legitimized through backdoor funding routed through 3 separate shell companies. Legal, strategic, invisible. Soren stood beside me at the media launch, dressed sharp, speaking to a reporter with the kind of calm confidence I used to have to coach him into. Now, he didn't need prompting. He shaped public perception like it was clay. The future of responsible AI, he was saying, isn't about disruption. It's about precision. About knowing who should be building and who should be held accountable. I watched the reporter nod like she understood, like she was impressed. She had no idea what those words really meant. Later that day, back in my office overlooking the Chicago River, I reviewed the quarterly reports. Everything was performing. Donations were up. Public trust was high. The product prototypes were promising enough to draw 2 corporate partnerships and a tentative government grant. And Kellen? Still in Montana. Still monitored. He'd signed his rights away. His innovations now belonged to the foundation. We gave him high-speed access, a modest lab, and a monthly allowance. In exchange, he gave us a steady stream of working code and 0 public presence. He tried to email a journalist once. It never sent. The team in Montana had intercepted it. I saw the message myself. They're rebranding my work. Tell someone. He had no idea how far behind he was. Maya hadn't been heard from since the divorce. She took the deal, left the country under a clean passport, and cashed the quiet monthly deposits I arranged. I knew she was somewhere in Portugal. Soren still checked her activity sometimes, just to be sure she was keeping her end of the silence. And Theo? He was with her. I never challenged that. Some pieces were better left untouched. Soren came in just after lunch with 2 lattes and a new hire folder. Marketing director offer was accepted, he said, placing the file on my desk. Background's clean. No ties to Maya or Kellen. Good, I said. He handed me a latte and sank into the chair across from me. You've built something untouchable. I glanced out the window. Not untouchable. Just better shielded than the last version. He leaned back, watching me. You ever think about her? He asked. Maya? He nodded. Sometimes, I said. But not with regret. He took a sip, then smiled. You know what people are starting to call you out there? I looked up. What? The architect of redemption. I almost laughed. That's a nice spin. He smirked. You earned it. I looked down at the desk, clean, precise, nothing out of place. This was the life I had now. Not just rebuilt. Reinforced. They took something from me once. Love, maybe? Or trust. Or the illusion of safety. And I turned it into leverage. I wasn't chasing peace anymore. I was designing control.